Hi there guys, welcome to this issue 24. So we've got the first part of our Redemptor Dreadnought. So I will be doing a giveaway for this issue. I bought an extra copy and I've got an extra copy of next week's issue. So there's a double giveaway and I'll go into details on that right at the end of the video. So let's have a look at what we've got today. So if we look at the sprue for our Dreadnought, we've got a gun, or one half of a gun. We've got one half of one of the hands. We've got 1 foot, and we've got the kind of main torso of the chassis. So that's what we get this week. We get the other sprue, which will be a bigger sprue. We'll get that next week. That's got the rest of the model. We also get a big fat base. So that's good. Okay, let's get into the magazine. Starting with the cover, learn about Dreadnoughts, discover Death Guard Hellbrutes, and exciting new missions. And I like what they do with the missions this week. It's cool. Okay, in this issue, the first half of your Redemptor Dreadnought comes with this issue. You'll need issue 25 to complete the kit. We've included an easy to follow build guide this week. This issue is filled with information about Space Marine Dreadnoughts and their corrupted Chaos versions, Hellbrutes. Each Dreadnought is piloted by a crippled Space Marine that is placed inside. Bonded with such a powerful war machine, a Dreadnought pilot is almost unstoppable on the battlefield. You'll have your first game with the Redemptor next issue, but for now we have some unique small-scale battles for you to fight. Happy hobbying. Okay, so Dreadnoughts. Discover the mighty war machines of the Space Marines, Redemptor Dreadnoughts, learn about the most advanced type of Dreadnought, Redemptor war gear, find out what makes Redemptor Dreadnought so deadly, Hellbrutes, read about the Chaos warped versions of Dreadnoughts, Baal under siege, the alien Tyranids invade the Blood Angels' homeworld. Then we've got our first part of the building guide for the Redemptor Dreadnought. Then in our rules, we've got Corvon 2, file after the core rules, Infiltration, squads of Reavers fight behind enemy lines, and Exfiltration, the Ultramarines must aid their Reavers breakout. Okay, so that's good. That is good. So, let's have a look then. So, War Machines number 1, Space Marine Dreadnoughts. And just to give you a bit of the flavour text, Space Marines who have been mortally wounded will often be carried away to die with dignity. Some, however, show an exceptional will to fight. Rather than being left to die, they are entombed within a dreadnought, so that they may continue to battle the Imperium's many foe. So that's good. What else have we got this issue? So this is giving us some information on venerable dreadnoughts. Over here, War Machines 2 goes into individually, specifically the Redemptor Dreadnoughts that we've got. So they are heavy support. Introduction is Ultima Founding. Service record are Indomitus Crusade Plague Wars. And specialisms are heavy weapon platform, anti-armour and infantry. So, Space Marine Redemptor Dreadnoughts. Primaris Space Marines are not the only new additions to the forces of the Adeptus Astartes. Redemptor Dreadnoughts are far larger, more powerful and better designed than the older types of Dreadnought. Enemies are crushed to splintered bone and gore by these gigantic war engines. Lovely, very nice. Okay, so we have got 2 different types. So there's one type that's got like a Gatling gun, and there's one that's got like a big massive plasma gun. So that's good. Very good. And some of the armaments are slightly different as well. So interesting. And I'm hoping we're going to get this extra stuff on the sprue next week. I know we've definitely got the Gatling gun version, but I don't know about anything else. Okay, what have we got now? So this is about the war gear. So specifically what we've got is we've got the Redemptor Fist. We've got half of that in this issue. We've got the Heavy Onslaught Gatling Cannon is what we've got this week. We We haven't got these yet, the dual storm bolters. Oh yes, we do, but this isn't the dual storm ones. These are something else that look like little missiles in there. On the head, it's got the Icarus rocket pad. We haven't got that yet. And then this main section here, oh nice, they call it the pilot sarcophagus because they're kind of bound into it. So that's cool. Very cool. Okay. Again, it goes through the different weapons on here. So the plasma gun they've got is actually called a macro plasma incinerator. These ones that we've got here, the two different types. So what we've got on this model is Fragstorm grenade launchers as opposed to the storm bolters which are on there. I don't know what we'll get on the other sprue. Hopefully we'll get the option to make whichever one we wish. What else can we say about the stuff that's in there? Well, I'll go through it all at the end in more depth. Okay, Hellbrutes. So Hellbrutes are the Chaos version of the Dreadnoughts. Hellbrutes are Chaos warped versions of Space Marine Dreadnoughts. A crippled Chaos Space Marine lives trapped inside this hideous combination of flesh and metal. The horror and agony of being entombed inside soon drives the pilot mad with fury. The Death Guard have a special fondness for these machines of war. So they are a walker, they are used for heavy support. Their melee weapons are Hellbrute Fist, Power Scourge and Hellbrute Hammer. And their specialism is indiscriminate slaughter. Nice. So that's cool. And then this next page goes through 4 different types. So we've got the Death Guard Hellbrute that goes into some information there. It has got, what's this? The Forces of Abaddon, the Despoilers Black Legion. That's his one. Night Lords. And then it's got the Crimson Slaughter. That's their version. They all look pretty mean anyway. Okay, so 40k battles number 2 is Baal Under Siege. Baal, the homeworld of the Blood Angels, was under siege. A vast armada of Tyranid vessels hung in the skies above, blotting out the stars. The Blood Angels had already called upon their successor chapters for support, assembling a fighting force of incredible size and strength. Unfortunately, they were still too few. Okay, I'll go through this at the end as well. Interesting. Gives some information about the Tyranids as a race there as well. And this is, that just continues there. Okay, here's our how to build. I mean, it's going to be incomplete because we've only got a small portion of the sprues. And let's have a look. All right, so here is the actual sprue that we get next week. And it does not have the plasma incinerator on there. I don't think. No. No, so we got this small one this week, and then next week we get this double one. So yeah, it doesn't have the plasma incinerator. It doesn't have the bolters. So we just got the grenade option that I just showed you anyway. So yeah, so not much hobbying involved. This is a easy fit model as well. So this isn't the standard. Some people thought that these were on more sprues than this, but that's if you buy the old type of Dreadnought, which has got more hobbying to do with it. Whereas these easy fit ones, you don't get an option for what goes on it really. It's just what they give you, and that is why if you wanted to buy a Dreadnought, an old style Dreadnought, you can still get them. They're about 30 quid. But this specific one, you can go to the likes of Dark Sphere or Element Games and that kind of thing. I think you can pick them up for about 23, 24 quid, something like that. So they are, they are the newest type of Dreadnought, but they are not the best as far as I'm concerned, or certainly from a hobbyist point of view. Okay, so that is that. Right, so I like this. So what we've got here, if I can get rid of this section, this page is giving us almost a kind of campaign. So it's called Barakia's Capital City of Corvon 2, and it's a map. So basically what we're doing is every time you play, you can mark the map with an Ultramarines victory or a Death Guard victory. So that's good. So it says here, mark your results from the infiltration missions using this map. There are up to 10 locations for you to battle over. So that's good. So we've got some more information here about Corvon 2 itself. An ash-covered wasteland polluted by its own heavy industry. For thousands of years, the citizens of this world have toiled away producing construction materials and refining ore for the worlds of the Imperium. Now Corvon 2 finds itself plagued by Death Guard invaders. So yeah, it's got more information on the map there. It tells us what infiltration is. So, Space Marine Reavers must move into Death Guard territory and scout their objectives while avoiding detection and elimination. The Death Guard must stop the Space Marine Reavers from scouting vital locations and escaping with valuable intelligence. So on here, it's got a very small area for Reaver deployment, and then Death Guard deployment is right through the centre of the map. And it's interesting because the deployment is done completely differently to anything we've done before. Previously, we've been told what our forces are, whereas your role for what your forces are going to be. And we'll show you that in a second. So all the deployment and victory conditions and stuff I'll get to at the end when we go through everything again. So Death Guard deployment. Death Guard are unaware that the Reavers are moving underground. Plague Marines are patrolling the city, keeping close eye on the territory. Before deploying, you must roll to see which Death Guard models are present on the battlefield. So basically, you're rolling a D3. So that's basically you roll a D6 and you divide it by 2, rounding up. So on a roll of 1 or 2, you get 1 Plague Marine and 6 Poxwalkers. On a roll of 3 or 4, you get 2 Plague Marines and 9 Poxwalkers. And on a 5 or 6, you get 3 Plague Marines and 12 Poxwalkers. And the Reaver forces, similarly, 1 or 2 gets you 3 Reavers, 3 or 4 gets you 4 Reavers, 5 or 6 gets you 2 times 3. 2 times 3 is basically, you've got 2 deployment zones. So you deploy them separately like that. So that's good. Setting up the objectives. To set up your objective marker, roll the objective marker table and place the marker on the appropriate position as marked on the image on the playmat. So D3s, you get either point A, B or C. And if you look on here, you've got A right in the middle, which is Death Guard territory, B, which is neither, and C, which is neither. So that's good. So you could actually have, if it rolls the right way, you either get a really unbalanced or a really balanced fight. And I think that is why you do it like a almost like a mini campaign, because given the number of units on the board, these matches are going to be really quite quick and turn over quite fast anyway. Okay, so mission briefing. Searching the city, Sergeant Castius thrust his knife into the final Poxwalker and lowered the creature's foul body silently into the sewer floor. He lost count of the amount of shambling zombie monsters his squad had put down today. So this is giving us mission number 7. And again, this is a more standard type. It's called Exfiltration. The Death Guard are now alerted to the presence of the Reavers. So you play this after you've done your infiltration stuff. Death Guard are now alerted to the presence of the Reavers and have set up a perimeter to stop them getting away. The Space Marines are launching an attack to cover their Reavers' withdrawal. Will they engage the Death Guard in time? So actually quite an interesting way to set up. So the Death Guard deployment is a 6-inch portion of the map, and you've got the Space Marines that will deploy from each side. Now, your Reavers, they deploy from the very edge of the battlefield here, go in this direction. The rest of your forces, which I'll tell you in a second, deploy in the first 3 inches of this side. So it's almost like you'll have a strong Death Guard army here, who's probably going to be trying to wipe out the Reavers as quick as they can before the rest of your Space Marines get over for support. So your Death Guard, you've got 3 Plague Marines, 12 Poxwalkers, and you've got Felthius and the Tainted Cohorts. That's quite a strong force. They're up against 5 Intercessors, 2 Hellblasters, 3 Aggressors, and a Librarian, plus 2 squads of 3 Reavers, which will deploy from that side. So all in all, they're quite evenly balanced. But I will say that at until your Space Marines can get into contact with your Death Guard, the Reavers are going to get their asses kicked. So basically, deployment is use any terrain you want. Deployment zones are shown on the map. Reavers enter the game by moving into the map on the Space Marine player's first turn. Death Guard players deploy first, and the Space Marine player takes the first turn. Victory conditions are Space Marines score 1 point for each Reaver model remaining at the end of the game. I think they'll be lucky if there's any. Space Marines score 1 victory point for each Death Guard unit eliminated. Death Guard score 2 points for each of the Reavers eliminated and 1 for everything else. The battle lasts for 5 rounds. That's awesome. I really like the idea of that. I look forward to giving that one a go. Very good. Okay, and then finally, we've got next week. So we've got part 2 of our Redemptor Dreadnought. So we look forward to that. Then episode number 26 is some more paints. So we get a resupply of Abaddon Black, and we get Reichland Flesh Shade. Now, what we get also, it says detailed paint guides. I'm not sure if that's just an update of the paint guides that we've got, but that's it. We'll look forward to that. Discover the Great Unclean Ones and learn about Reboot Gulliman. So that's interesting as well. And then the text for next week's one on this side is learn more about the Dreadnoughts, paint your Redemptor, powerful models in your games. So what I'll do is I'm going to go through all this in much more detail in just a second, and basically it's just going to be me reading out all of the magazine. But what I will say is issue 24 and 25 is going to be my next giveaway. So the criteria for that is between the 2 videos, if I can get 3,000 views before I do the review for issue number 26, then I'll give it away to one of my subscribers. All you have to do is be a subscriber and comment on this video or the next one, or issue 25. That's all you got to do. If you do that, I will. You'll be included in the draw for it. In fact, if you comment on both, you'll get a vote in. You'll get 2 votes basically. So yeah, I'll do that. And like I say, if I get 3,000 views across the 2 videos, by the time we do the review of issue number 26, I'll post it. I'll post it out anywhere in the world to whoever wins it. If we don't, what I'm going to do is I'll carry these over to the next one, to the next big issue, which I believe is going to be collecting. I believe it's the Rhino. It's like the big Death Guard tank. So if we don't get 3,000 views, I will carry it over to that competition as well, and that's another double one. So it'll be like a 4-issue one. But I'm sure we can get 3,000 views out of these but by the time we get there. So that's it. Right, okay. Let's go through this in a bit more detail. So Dreadnoughts. Space Marines who have been mortally wounded will often be carried away to die with dignity. Some, however, show an exceptional will to fight. Rather than being left to die, they are entombed within a Dreadnought, so that they may continue to battle the Imperium's many foes. Dreadnoughts are towering war machines that advance across the battlefield with thunderous strides. Their mechanical arms carry heavy weapons which they eliminate the enemies of the Imperium. They combine the skill, arms and ferocity of a Space Marine with the durability and firepower of a battle tank. The pilot of a Dreadnought is surgically implanted within a Dreadnought sarcophagus. Once placed within, the pilot can never be removed from the machinery that sustains him. The link between the Space Marine and the sarcophagus system exists for the remainder of the warrior's life. The pilots spend the majority of their time in a deep sleep and can live for many centuries. The oldest Dreadnoughts have served the Imperium for thousands of years. Because they are living relics of their chapter, the vast chambers that contain the chapter's Dreadnoughts are holy shrines. Tech Marines look after the Dreadnoughts with great care, tending to the needs of both man and machine. Awakening a Dreadnought is not a simple task. They are only woken when their wisdom and power are greatly needed. When they are called to battle, dreadnoughts bolster their brothers with expert skills, ancient wisdom, terrifying weaponry, and the raw fury of a space marine. Okay, it says here, heroes of legend. The battle brothers of a chapter know the names and deeds of all their dreadnoughts. Each of these entombed warriors is a famous hero whose name and history is known even to the newest of recruits. And our tagline for the page is, to question is to doubt. Okay, right. So that's interesting. So now we've got venerable dreadnoughts, or venerable dreadnoughts. Venerable dreadnoughts are among the oldest war machines fighting on the battlefields of the 41st millennium. They are revered by other space marines, not just as powerful warriors, but also as a link to the ancient past of their chapter. Some venerable dreadnoughts are old enough to have fought alongside some of the greatest heroes of their chapter's distant past. They are warriors of legend, and their presence on the battlefield is inspirational to other members of their chapter. Venerable dreadnoughts are rarely woken from their centuries-long slumber. Only in the most desperate of circumstances or during the most important of campaigns are they ever roused. When they do take to the battlefield, they are an incredible fighting force to behold. These ancient machines of war are death-given form, capable of destroying entire enemy formations with devastating blasts from their heavy weapons and the mighty blows from their mechanised arms. They are also masters of strategy, having served for centuries under the finest commanders the Imperium has ever seen. As battles rage across the Imperium and the forces of chaos spill forth from the cicatrix maledictum, venerable dreadnoughts find themselves called into action more regularly. The time for rest has passed. Now it is time for war. Okay, there's one here, this green one, called Voskir. Venerable dreadnought Voskir has served under the Salamander's chapter for centuries. Critically wounded in battle against the vast Orc invasion, his hatred for the Greenskins burns with frightening strength. Voskir was granted the honour of becoming a dreadnought and has served in many battles since. In this time he has slaughtered many thousands of orcs, but still his desire for vengeance remains. He will fight on until death finally claims him. Nice. Okay, so Redemptor dreadnoughts. Let's see what we've got about them. Primaris Space Marines are not the only new additions to the forces of the Adeptus Astartes. Redemptor dreadnoughts are far larger, more powerful and better designed than older types of dreadnought. Enemies are crushed to splintered bone and gore by these gigantic war machines. The large frame of a Redemptor dreadnought carries heavier weaponry than its ancestors and strides far more quickly across the battlefield. It is a powerful union of mighty warrior and devastating war machine. A warrior entombed within a Redemptor dreadnought can control his machine with surprising levels of dexterity and speed, but he is quickly drained by the experience. A Redemptor dreadnought's powerful systems will kill the pilot over time. Despite this, their incredible combat abilities keep them in service. And the tagline on the bottom here says, "The innocent must be sacrificed to ensure that the guilty are punished." I think some of these were on last week's as well. Okay, so we've got anti-infantry armaments, which is what we are set up for. That's what we're getting across issue 24 and 25. When fulfilling an anti-infantry role, Redemptor dreadnoughts often carry onslaught Gatling guns, Gatling cannons, flamers, and grenade launchers. A heavy onslaught Gatling cannon is deadly to enemy infantry due to its incredible rate of fire and armour penetration. Okay, and the anti-armour armaments, Redemptor dreadnoughts can be equipped with a macroplasma incinerator, a weapon capable of searing through armoured targets with ease. And then we've got reinforcing Baal here, and it just says, the Blood Angels chapter was almost completely destroyed in a cataclysmic battle with the alien invaders. Many of their dreadnoughts have since been replaced with new Redemptor dreadnoughts. Okay. And then the armoury here, we went through all that previously, so that's fine. And then we've got the war gear data file. So we've got the heavy onslaught Gatling cannon, which we found out about a minute ago. Macro Plasma Incinerator. When fired, this gigantic plasma weapon glows with barely contained energy. It's capable of being overcharged at the risk to the pilot, in order to destroy the toughest armour the enemy can field. Okay, so the pilot's sarcophagus says the pilot of a Redemptor Dreadnought is a crippled space marine surgically implanted with a sarcophagus. The Dreadnought becomes his body so that he can still dispense the Emperor's justice. Okay, so this is all kind of stuff that we've already learnt. So the difference between the grenade launcher and the storm bolter. A set of anti-infantry weapons are mounted on the torso. The storm bolters have great range, but the grenade launchers can deal more damage. Now there's an Icarus rocket pad on the top. Icarus rocket pods are designed to shoot enemy flyers from the skies. They can also be used to eliminate land-based vehicles and other heavy armoured targets at considerable range. And then finally, we've got the Redemptor Fist. The Redemptor Fist is more flexible and dexterous than that of a standard dreadnought, but it is no less deadly. It carries an underside mounted heavy flamer or onslaught Gatling cannon. Nice. So it said they're both onslaught Gatling cannons, but one's much bigger than the other. Anyway, so that's cool. Right. Shall we find out about Hellbrutes? So we read this previously. Let's have a look. So let's have a look at these four first. Thanks to their incredible resilience, Death Guard count many Hellbrutes in their ranks. Death Guard Hellbrutes descend into insanity far slower than others. They still seek to end their suffering through death on the battlefield. Okay, the next one. Hellbrutes are a common sight among the forces of Abaddon the Despoiler's Black Legion. Many Chaos forces, the Black Legion included, see being interred inside a Hellbrute as a terrible fate. For this reason, it is often used as a punishment. God, bastards. Okay, the Night Lords are one of the first. The Night Lords are one of the first founding legions. They are obsessed with causing terror and fear. Night Lord Hellbrutes are desperate to spread terror and destruction as it gives them a brief release from the pain and insanity of their existence. And finally, the Crimson Slaughter are a warband led by a sorcerer known as Cranon, or Cranon, I'm not sure. Cranon the Relentless. They are haunted by the voices of those they have killed in battle. Hellbrutes of this warband can only drown the whispering voices out with the sound of combat and murder. Lovely. Hellbrutes are a common sight among Chaos Space Marines, but the Death Guard are especially fond of these mechanical monsters. The incredible toughness of Death Guard Marine means they can deal with being placed inside a Hellbrute for far longer than other Chaos Space Marines. The pain and horror of this experience drives most Hellbrutes insane. When they are not in battle, Hellbrutes are chained like beasts in the deepest level of the fortress and ships. Death Guard Hellbrutes are stored in dank holds amongst squirming tendrils and slimy flesh. They feed upon the energies around them, healing their wounds and growing bloated and strong until they are taken into the battlefield. Hellbrutes seek an end to their suffering through destruction in battle. Death Guard Hellbrutes are only slightly more sane than those of other legions. They are therefore aimed at the enemy rather than ordered. They then rampage through the enemy lines to spread death, plague and contagion. Nice. Okay, so now we've got Baal under siege. But first of all, read this little bit about Tyranids. The Tyranids are a race of world-devouring monsters from another galaxy. The Tyranids share a hive mind and travel in colossal hive fleets. They're a primal force. Their only goal is to seek out and consume organic life in order to grow yet more Tyranid life forms. Okay, cool. So we've got Baal under siege. Baal, the homeworld of the Blood Angels, was under siege. A vast armada of Tyranid vessels hung in the skies above, blotting out the stars. The Blood Angels had already called upon their successor chapters for support, assembling in a fighting force of incredible size and strength. Unfortunately, there were still too few. The battle raged for many days. Thousands of Tyranid life forms were blasted to pieces, but every dead creature was replaced by 10 more. The Space Marines, meanwhile, had far fewer warriors. Every fallen soldier was a terrible blow to the Blood Angels' defence. The situation became so dire that entire Blood Angels' Dreadnought force had been awoken from their slumber to defend what remained of Baal. The Blood Angels' fortress monastery, the Arx Angelicum, sat atop the mountain known as Mount Seraph. Tyranids swarmed in their thousands toward the fortress. Larger Tyranids fell to blasts of las cannon fire, while the smaller creatures were crushed under the mechanical feet or smashed to pieces by swinging power fists. Still the aliens came on, clambering over piles of their own dead as the living space vessels began to devour the planet. The dreadnoughts fought on with all their skill and fury, battling back to back for days on end, without a moment's rest. Their presence and example inspired the Space Marines who fought alongside them. Despite their heroism, however, the battle soon began to turn in favour of the Tyranids. The aliens' sheer numbers overwhelmed the Space Marine defenders. The Tyranids' bladed limbs and bioweapons proved deadly, cutting down Blood Angels until only a handful of Dreadnought warriors remained standing. Still the aliens could not break through, stopped in their tracks by heavy gunfire and shell-splintering blows from armoured fists. The Tyranids had begun to send forth ever larger and more vicious monsters in an attempt to overwhelm the stubborn heroes of Baal. Surrounded by gigantic Trigons and ferocious hive Tyranids, the Dreadnoughts eventually began to falter. The venerable Dreadnought, Eryxos, was the first to fall, torn apart by the scything talons of Carnifex. Others soon followed until only 4 Dreadnoughts remained, chanting the litanies and mottos of their chapter as they prepared to finally die in the line of duty. Fortunately for the defenders of Baal, salvation was at hand. The Ultramarines under Rabut Guliman had arrived at the head of the Indomitus crusade. The skies parted as the dark mass of the Tyranid fleet erupted in flame. From the heavens came thunderhawks and drop pods bearing the blue of the Ultramarines. Roars of fury went up across the planet as the surviving Blood Angels rallied once more, encouraged by the arrival of their brethren. At the base of Mount Seraph, Dreadnought defenders observed the battle with their kin and redoubled their efforts. The Space Marines were still outmatched, however, hemmed in on all sides. Reinforcements arrived just in time, in the shape of 3 more Dreadnoughts clad in the colour of the Ultramarines chapter. These were no ordinary Dreadnoughts, however. They were Redemptor Dreadnoughts, taller, faster and more powerful than those they came to aid. Within mere minutes of the Ultramarines' arrival, the tide of battle turned, with the Redemptor Dreadnoughts lending assistance to their allies. They began blasting the Tyranid invaders with heavy onslaught Gatling guns and bursts of superheated energy from the macro plasma incinerators. Hordes of Tyranids died from their firepower. The flow of Tyranid creatures began to slow as the Ultramarines' fleet crushed the bioships in orbit above Baal. Still they charged forward, driven by their alien animal instinct. As the skies cleared and dawn broke over Baal, the fighting began to draw to a close. The base of the Arx Angelicum was surrounded by a ridge of dead Tyranids, but the fortress still stood firm thanks to the combined efforts of the Blood Angels and Ultramarines. Rejoice, brothers, for redemption is at hand. Okay, right. So we go through that. What else have we got? Got some more stuff about Corvon 2. Corvon 2 lies in the galactic north of Ultramar, in the Ultima Segmentum. Corvon 2 has a long history of trade and friendly relations with the empires of Ultramar. The planet is ringed by a network of connected space stations that handle the delivery and dispatch of ore in its raw and refined forms. Whilst Barachius is the capital and largest city, the city of Kilburn is the trading hub of Corvon 2 and welcomes more off-world visitors. Kilburn has a brutal reputation and criminal gangs operate on its ash-darkened streets, despite repeated attempts by Governor Tarch to crack down on them. Okay, cool. Corvon PDF. Corvon 2's Planetary Defence Force. PDF. Cool, they could have named that a bit better. Corvon 2's Planetary Defence Force is under-equipped and incapable of standing before a Death Guard invasion force. Despite this, the people of Corvon 2 are excellent fighters, and a few pockets of PDF still hold out against all odds. Then we've got some stuff about Barachius. Right, Barachius is named after the great hero from the planet's distant past, Severin Barachus. It's a city of heavy industry dotted with factories and towering Gothic administratum buildings. Most of the citizens of Barakius live in vast hab blocks on the outskirts of the city. Life in Barakius was harsh enough before the Death Guard arrived. With war raging on all sides, it is now almost uninhabitable. And then we've got a little bit about the governor. Governor Ludmila Tarch. Governor Ludmila Tarch holds power on Corvon too. She has a reputation for efficiency and harsh justice. As the PDF forces were crushed by the Death Guard assault, it was Governor Tarch who ordered a distress signal broadcast. Her status is currently unknown, but her palace lies in ruins. Okay, then we've got the infiltration stuff that we know about. We know about all that as well. And I'll just quickly read the mission briefing for our play mission 7. Sergeant Castius thrust a knife into the final poxwalker and lowered the creature's foul body silently to the sewer floor. He had lost count of the amount of shambling zombie monsters his squad had put down today. They had already located 3 crash sites and secured sensitive intel as well as weapons and ammunition. They had one more sector to search before they could signal the withdrawal. Castius' Auspex scanner began to bleep softly, picking up a faint Imperial signal. The final crash site must be nearby. He waved his squad forwards and directed them to a ladder that led up to the city streets. Castius' Auspex scanner bleeped softly. The crash site was no more than 100 metres away. The Reavers clambered quickly up the ladder and scrambled out of the sewer onto the streets of Barakius. Drawing their heavy bolt pistols, they spread out across the street, sticking to the shadows as they moved towards the objective. The sound of Death Guard bolter fire drifted through the hazy smog that covered the ruins of the city in a choking blanket. The beeps from Castius' Auspex scanner continued to pick up in pace as they closed in on the objective. Atreus and Palon took point, their combat knives grasped in reverse grip as they advanced in absolute silence. Castius followed his squad mates, keeping an eye on their flanks. Atreus suddenly halted and flashed a hand signal. Castius moved forward to see what the trooper had spotted. The crashed vessel was visible ahead. Its cargo containers had been split open and the contents had been spilled to the city streets. The Death Guard troops milled around the wreckage, picking through the weapons and gear. Castius raised the fist and his troops silently moved into position, ready to begin their attack. Okay, so the transmission reference is Ultramarines Lieutenant Calcius, Corvon 2 Defence. Proceed to the search area and mark objectives. Death Guard forces mobile in this area. Exercise caution, but eliminate enemy when necessary. Ground assault will begin in 3 hours. Transmission end. Okay, that's good. Then it gives us our exfiltration mission. So that's it. That is issue 24, and it is pretty good. I especially like the this page that kind of gives it like a campaign feel, and that you can, you know, I'll be photocopying this so as we can replay it again in the future. But I really like it. I think it's a decent issue. There's not much to say really about the sprue and base, except, you know, when I receive issue number 25, I'll make it up and we'll have a good look at the model. But yeah, I think all in all, good issue. And yeah, that's it really. So thanks very much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you did enjoy this, maybe consider liking and subscribing. And if you did like it and you want a copy of this, subscribe and leave a comment, and you'll be in the draw for for this issue and issue number 25. And like I say before, if between those two videos there's 3,000 views, then this is definitely up for grabs. So thanks guys, have a great week. I'll see you later.